Well, folks, Bailey Zimmerman has officially found himself caught between a rock and a hard place. About the cruelest irony you could imagine, because right now, the 26-year-old country star isn't worried about the charts, he's worried about a warrant. An actual arrest warrant issued out of New Mexico after authorities say he left a hotel room in ruins to the tune of more than $16,000. He's now facing felony charges. Here's what we know.
There were 2 chairs just gone, not damaged, gone, and nobody's talking about that. Housekeeping opened that hotel room door on the morning of May 28th, and what they found wasn't just a mess. It wasn't a rock star being careless. It was total deliberate destruction. A broken phone, a damaged TV, busted chairs, a wrecked coffee table, a hole punched clean through the wall, and 2 chairs that were simply missing. Where do 2 chairs go? You don't accidentally lose 2 chairs. And yet the mainstream country music press wants to quietly fold the story into the troubled artist narrative and move on. But we're not moving on. Not today. Because here's what you already know if you've been paying attention. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a bad night that came out of nowhere. There's a pattern here, and patterns tell the truth even when people don't. So let's go back. Let's go all the way back to May 27th in Albuquerque, New Mexico, because that's where this whole thing starts to unravel. Bailey Zimmerman, 26 years old, rising country star, was booked to perform at a resort and casino. Big show. Fans had traveled. People had booked hotels, taken time off work, spent real money to be there. And look, that matters. That's not a small thing. These aren't Hollywood elites. These are regular, hardworking people who saved up and showed up because they believed in this guy. Remember that because it becomes important later. Now, before the show even started, staff at the resort were already noticing something was wrong. According to the affidavit, Bailey was showing signs of intoxication while dealing with crew members during soundcheck. And this is the part nobody talks about. Soundcheck, that's hours before a show. That's not nerves. That's not one drink to take the edge off. Something was already very wrong well before he ever walked toward that stage. And then he did walk toward that stage. Around 4:30 in the afternoon, Bailey stumbled out onto the amphitheater stage. He grabbed a guitar and slammed it on the ground. Then he tripped and fell backwards off the stage. But he wasn't finished. He threw 2 cymbals across the stage, kicked the drum set, shoved the guitarist, and hurled a microphone to the ground before storming off. This is all documented. This is in the affidavit. These aren't rumors. These are written, signed, legal documents describing what witnesses saw with their own eyes. And I want you to sit with that for a second. Because here's the thing though. This didn't happen in some back alley. This happened in front of resort staff, crew members, witnesses. People saw this. And somehow the story that made headlines was a polished Instagram post about not feeling well. We'll get to that Instagram post, because that's where my blood pressure actually went up. After the stage incident, Bailey headed toward the parking lot. The affidavit says he spit toward a security officer who was standing nearby. Spit toward an officer trying to do his job. And then, in a detail that honestly sounds like something out of a movie, he refused to get into the SUV that was waiting for him. Why? Because it was white. He wanted a black SUV. That's not a tantrum. That's not a diva moment. At that level of behavior, that's someone who is not in control of themselves. Not even a little bit. He eventually got back to the resort. Staff saw him stumbling down the hallway toward his room, blood on his left knee. And that's when the show got canceled. Now here's where it gets interesting, because what Bailey did next is the part that should make every single one of his fans feel something very specific. He went on Instagram. And he posted a message telling fans he hadn't been feeling well, that he'd tried to power through, but he just couldn't give them the show they deserved. He said he hated letting everyone down, but had to take care of himself. Take care of himself. I need you to stay with me here, because I want to be really careful about how I say this next part. There are people out there fighting real battles, real illness, real mental health struggles, real addiction. And I don't say any of what I'm about to say lightly, but that Instagram post, after everything that was documented in that affidavit, was not honesty. It wasn't vulnerability. It was a carefully worded statement designed to generate sympathy and protect an image. And the people who got hurt by it, they were the fans. The ones who drove hours. The ones who spent money they probably didn't have to spare. The ones who believed him. And you know what? Let me slow down for just a second here. Because I genuinely find this part of the story hard to shake. Not the destroyed hotel room. Not the felony charge. It's the idea that regular people, good people, people who work Monday through Friday and live for a Friday night at a concert, they were the ones left holding the bill. Literally, hotels already paid for, gas already spent, and he posted an Instagram story and called it a day. That's the part that gets me. That's the part that keeps sitting wrong. Okay, back to what happened next, May 28th, the morning after. Housekeeping opens the door to Bailey's room and finds what the documents describe as absolute destruction. Broken phone, damaged TV, busted chairs, wrecked coffee table, 2 chairs missing entirely, and a hole punched through the wall. The total damage, more than $16,000. $16,000 in a single night. And on top of all of that, the resort says Bailey racked up $400 in alcohol charges and never paid the bill. Never paid the bill. just walked away. Now, Bailey is facing a 4th-degree felony for criminal damage to property, plus a misdemeanor for falsely obtaining services. The arrest warrant came down on June 18th. The resort says they tried to reach him after the incident. No response. They tried again. Still nothing. So they went to the courts, and the courts issued a warrant, an actual arrest warrant, for a 26-year-old country star who, a year and a half ago, was being called one of the most exciting new voices in country music. And here's what the mainstream coverage keeps doing. They keep framing this as a troubled star story, a rough patch story. They use words like spiraling, like it's just a sad chapter in an otherwise inspiring journey. And look, maybe it is. Maybe Bailey Zimmerman is going to get the help he clearly needs and come out the other side of this and tell his story, and it'll be powerful and redemptive. That happens. I believe in that. But that's not what's being buried here. What's being buried is the accountability part, because there's a very specific thing that happens in the entertainment industry. You already know this, where the machine closes around one of its assets and the story gets managed. The Instagram post goes up, the PR firm makes some calls, the headlines get softened, and the fans, the real people who got hurt, they just sort of disappear from the story. He said, actually, let me rephrase that. The system doesn't ignore this stuff because it doesn't care. It ignores it because managing the story is worth more than telling the truth. Bailey Zimmerman is a product, and products don't get held accountable. Products get protected. Now, if any of this feels familiar, that's because it is. Back in January of last year, Bailey Zimmerman publicly apologized after performing drunk at a festival. He admitted he was too drunk to play, said he sang awful, told fans he was disappointed in himself, vowed to do better. That was a year and a half ago. Vowed to do better. And here we are, felony charges, arrest warrant, $16,000 in hotel damage, and another Instagram post about not feeling well. So the question I keep coming back to is this. Who is actually around this kid? Where are the people who are supposed to be in his corner, not just collecting a percentage, but actually looking out for him? Because what we're watching right now, if we're honest about it, looks less like a rough patch and more like a system that's perfectly comfortable letting a young man burn as long as the tour dates keep moving. And that's not a music industry exclusive observation. We've seen it before. We've seen what happens when the machine decides someone is more valuable as a functioning product than as a healthy human being. We've seen the pressure to perform, to show up, to push through, dressed up as professionalism and dedication. We've seen what comes after. And the reason for that, well, you'll see. Because this story isn't over. Bailey Zimmerman is still scheduled to perform in Nebraska this Thursday. Think about that. There is an active arrest warrant out of New Mexico, a 4th-degree felony charge. And the shows are still on the books, still moving forward. Because the machine doesn't stop. The machine never stops. Now, does he turn himself in before Thursday? Does his team try to get ahead of this? Does someone finally sit this young man down and say the thing that nobody around him seems willing to say? Or does he walk out onto another stage, in another state, while a warrant sits out there with his name on it? I genuinely don't know. And that's not me being dramatic. That's just the truth of where we are right now. What I do know is this. The fans who got hurt in Albuquerque deserved better. The security officer he allegedly spit at deserved better. The resort staff who had to clean up that room deserved better. And honestly, Bailey Zimmerman deserved better too. Not from us. From the people around him who are supposed to be watching out for him and have clearly been choosing the tour schedule over the human being. There's a version of this story where Bailey gets real help, where the people profiting off his name actually step back and say enough, where accountability leads to recovery instead of just to the next venue. I hope that's the version we're heading toward. But accountability has to be part of it. You can't skip the accountability and get to the redemption. That's not how it works. Not in real life. Not for regular people. And it shouldn't work that way for famous ones either. Because here's what never gets said in these stories. The fans are always an afterthought. The damage is always minimized. The statement always comes out crafted and careful and just sad enough to generate sympathy without generating consequences. And the people with real power in the situation, the management, the label, the booking agent still collecting their fee, they never end up in the story at all. Not an accident at all. So I want to ask you something directly. And I mean this genuinely, not as a prompt, not as a talking point. If Bailey Zimmerman were an unknown artist, someone without a label deal and a PR team and a verified Instagram account, and he had done exactly what those documents describe, what do you think would have happened to him? Do you think the story would have been managed? Do you think the Instagram post would have been enough? Or do you think the full weight of accountability would have landed differently? You already know the answer. We all know the answer. So leave it in the comments. Tell me what you think should happen next. Tell me if you think the machine is going to close around this story and make it go away. Tell me if you think Bailey gets real help or just gets a publicist and a new tour schedule. Tell me if you're one of the fans who showed up in Albuquerque and got left holding a hotel receipt and an Instagram apology, because those people deserve to be heard. And this channel is going to keep saying the things that the mainstream entertainment press is too comfortable to say. The warrant is real. The felony is real. The pattern is real. And we're not looking away.